All right, we'll call the Ways and Means hearing to order. Sam, you can take the hot seat. You're the sponsor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask a question. Why don't never have the gavel?
Somebody gave him a gift.
My dad gave me this when I was got elected. He said his people.
Oh,
would
that's
have
your
with it.
personal gavel.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, we'll call order. Sarita, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderwoman Howard,
Here.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Present.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Here.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad,
Here.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Hubbard, Chairman Palmer.
Present.
6 present, you have quorum.
Okay, we'll wait till the end of the meeting for item number 3, excuse Alderman. We'll move for approval of the minutes from November 14th. I'll entertain a motion.
Approve the minutes from November 14th.
Second.
Okay, with that, Sarita, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Vaccaro, Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Boyd, Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Chairman Palmer.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
Okay, before us today, we have one bill for Alderman from the 4th. And this is Board Bill 151, and I will let you take off, Mr. Sponsor.
Okay, this is about the Homer Phillips Dignity House. Used to be formerly known as Homer Phillips Hospital. We spent $56 million on remodeling that building to bring it back. We got tricked out of the hospital, but we were able to save the building. And Millennium is the management company. Anybody from Millennium? That's good, 'cause I'm gonna talk about you. Millennium is an organization that was managing the facility for over, they had a 99-year lease on the building. And it became infested with gnats, roaches, rats, and it was very unsecure. The back gates, they start out with the gates locking, going up on the tennis ring. And I didn't like the way they were doing things. And the building belonged to the city. And I have 220 constituents in there, and they had barred me out of the building because I came in there so much fighting for the rights of the people. And bed bugs right now is an infested problem. So the new group that came in, is coming in, we asked them to make sure that those properties are taken care of. The gnats come in through the trash chute. Bed bugs in almost in every apartment. I went in one apartment, a big, beautiful building. It's supposed to be for the dignity of the people that live out their last days in some kind of good manner. Everybody needs a better quality of life. But the tenants have been complaining and complaining. And they have a security problem where when you walk in the door, you used to have to punch in a number and the guard will let you in, but the guard sits over behind a wall where he cannot see. And the door is a revolving door where people come in and out all day long, go straight to the elevator and go through the building, ransacking through the building. They need to take that guard shack, that desk, and set it at the front of the door so that way when people come in, they'll see security. Then there's might I say, I always get in trouble with my words, there's an infestation of grandchildren as well. Running amok in the building, you know, doing things that they shouldn't be. This is a dignity house for seniors, and some people don't like children. And if your grandkids come, they shouldn't stay a month. Stay the weekend and get out of there. But every time I come, I see them, they're about ready to put a playground out there for them, there's so many of them. But I would ask for your favorable consideration to transfer this lease, and I want it to be understood that the new people, what's the name of the new group?
Eagle Point?
It's
What is
EPV2 if you're
Eagle
going.
Point.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I want Eagle Point to understand and know that you do not own that building. And that's what Millennium had a problem, we had a problem with Millennium thinking that they own, you do not own the building, the city owns the building, you just hold it, you're the leaseholder.
Oh, okay, okay.
So with that, if we can come to that agreement, I would ask for your favorable consideration to transfer the lease from Dominion to Eagle Point.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sponsor. Now, specifically, this is, we're doing an amendment to this board bill. You have amendment number 4, is that correct? That we were just changing some language?
The clerk Cherry mentioned that.
Yeah, as far as I can see, reading the summary and going through this, we have a clean copy and a marked copy to create a committee substitute. Is that correct? And
I have the attorney from the controller's office, I'd like to sit by me for security.
So here's amendment. I see.
Lou, are we, do we have to introduce an amendment here, or is this the bill as 151 as we have it before us?
It is as you have it before.
Okay, so it has been amended already and we're going through with this, okay. So what we'll do is entertain any questions of the sponsor. We'll start with Alderman Davis is not present, Alderman Carl is absent. Alderman Howard, any questions of the sponsor?
Are we terminating the lease, and is there any repercussions financially for the city in terminating the
Financial
lease?
deal, we're not terminating, they're selling the lease.
That's what I'm.
Okay, so these people, have they been vetted and they're taking over and they're gonna remedy all these,
Exactly.
okay, all these bad, situations? Okay. Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
I sound a little spacey, my ears are clogged up. If I put my head down, y'all think I'm sleeping, but it unclogs my ears. So I'm gonna put my head down.
No, I was saying, who's the vice chair? The vice chair.
All right, I'm back. I was just, I want to, our clerk, so clerk, I understand, we do have to vote on this amendment, is that correct, sir?
It is already incorporated in the committee sub, or is it a separate amendment?
I think it's separate.
No, it was, this is, we have the marked copy and clean copy before us.
All the amendments are in
They're-
the incorporated committee sub, so if you accept the committee sub.
Okay, all right, so we have to vote on the committee sub then? All right, okay. Thank you for that. All right, we'll continue with the questions. Before we go handle that, Alderwoman Hubbard, any questions?
A few questions. So how long has, well, not how long has the city owned Home G Phillips, but how long has it been open in its current
In
state?
capacity now.
Uh-huh.
I would guess about 10 years or more.
Okay. And have they ever considered selling it, or is it just, what's the value of it, like, on the city's
Well,
books?
we remodeled it for $56 million, so someone wanna give us that and above.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
I don't think people are interested in buying it for 56 million. I would raise hell if we didn't get $56 million or more.
How, do you know how much they make off of it a year with like rent subsidies or whatever it is?
No, but someone from the Eagle Point here, they can tell you how much.
Well, if you're, please take a seat next to Mr. Moore and introduce yourself, please.
Good morning, my name is Laura Burns, I'm the CEO of the Eagle Point Companies. And as Alderman Moore has indicated, our company has an agreement to acquire the lease and continue to operate the property. The lease has, I think, 79 years remaining on it or something like that. My understanding is the current owner, I haven't analyzed their annual
Don't
reports,
call
but
them owner.
I'm sorry, the current leaseholder.
Operator.
They have kept rents flat for a long time, and they have not been able to make any improvements to the building. And so our focus has been on bringing new dollars to the property, and we're planning to spend about $750,000 on immediate improvements, working on the HVAC systems, the hot water heaters, working on improving the elevators, sprucing things up that have been left alone for too long. And we are bringing in new financing, and our lender is looking very, very carefully about our long-term plans to making sure we can take care of the property and maintain it on your behalf.
But it'll still be affordable?
It'll still be
Okay.
affordable, it'll still be regulated under the low-income housing tax credit program.
Okay.
So rents will start to move a little bit, but
Okay.
we will always maintain them under the tax credit regulations.
Okay. Thank you, and Alderman Moore, I definitely appreciate your care and concern for a senior building in your ward, because I have several of them in my ward, and management is key, because we have people that come inside buildings and prey on our seniors. They sell drugs in these buildings, and seniors aren't like old people knitting and doing crossword puzzles like they used to in the past. We have some that are very active, and so it's important that you have good management and that you have activities for them, because a lot of times, their families have forgotten about them and they don't have access to go to different like day programs or whatever. So I think that's a really good component, and I commend your efforts in looking out for the seniors in your ward.
This is not a quick quote poll, I'm trying to say it, but on the 25th.
Say that 2 or 3 times now.
On the 25th
That's all I
of this
have,
month.
Mr. Chairman.
Alderman Murphy, any questions of the sponsor?
No questions. I said they were asked and answered. I believe I got to see this building when I went on your tour.
Right,
And so
exactly.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about. From the outside, I didn't realize these problems were, occurring inside. So I
Right.
hope this all goes through for you.
Okay.
Anyway, yes, I'm in favor.
Appreciate it.
Okay, Alderman Spencer's not present. Alderman Muhammad, any questions?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you very much, Alderman Oldenburg is absent. Alderman Boyd, any questions?
Yeah, with the new leasing company, put it that way, have you all, and you probably have, created a plan and timeline on when you will start addressing issues and how you will correct what's going on in the building? Have you prioritized what's the most important and?
Absolutely. If you might pass those
Sure.
out. So we hope to have all of the necessary approvals from the city in the next several weeks and acquire the lease by the end of December. So we would become the operator. I'm sorry, I think I only have 5. I'm not sure I provided enough, but in those materials, you'll see a little bit about our company, Eagle Point Companies. It has worked in St. Louis before. Alderwoman Clark Hubbard is responsible for one of our other properties, Winston Churchill Apartments. I don't know if you know that property, but it also had a long history of neglect. And we acquired that property in 2007, and I understand you were over at our property recently and saw how we continue to maintain that properly. We are a national company. We're based in Portland, Maine, but our property management company is very, very strong in Missouri, and our executive vice president is based in Kansas City. We have a district manager here in St. Louis that's been with our company for 9 years. Is very, very committed to working with residents. So I think if you go to about page 8, there's a list of immediate repairs, which include water cooling towers, water boilers, unit heat exchangers, and then on the right-hand side, I think it's page 8.
8.
On the right-hand side, you'll see some things that we've already begun working on. The accessory building, I don't know how familiar you are with that accessory building, but it's got a long history of environmental issues and flooding. And so one of the things that we're already underway, even before we own it, is to cause some sump pumps to go into that building, and we're gonna permanently wrap it so that it doesn't have this continued problem. We've retained a specialist in our elevators, and we'll immediately begin working on some of the elevators. There are 4 elevators. We're gonna focus on 2 immediately, and then work on the other 2 over the coming years. So these plans have all been shared with our lender, and the lender is also aware of how we're gonna draw down these funds to pay for these immediate improvements. But currently, we're budgeting $750,000. I think your report still holds a number that we looked at a few months ago. We were originally forecasting $500,000, but we expect that number to be more like $750,000.
All right, thank you. That's all.
All right. I have no further questions. It seems to be, well, we have. Alderman-
I have one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Mr. Chairman. And will rental fees or lease fees, will they increase under your new acquisition?
They will.
By how much?
So this is still regulated under the MHDC tax credit regulations. By rule, we can't increase rents more than 7% per year.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, and we wouldn't move at that pace. We think we'll probably increase them somewhere between 3% and 5%, but we'll move them, we want to move the rents up frankly because we need to support the operations. And I think what's happened is that the operations have suffered, and no one wants to live in a building that isn't being properly maintained. So I think we shared this with Alderman Moore, we think it's really important for us to be upfront and transparent. We want the property to remain affordable under the tax credit rules, but we also need to make sure we collect enough rent to pay for the operations. Now, we do have a rent adjustment reserve so that we can help some of the existing residents that cannot afford to have as big of a rent increase.
Right.
And we currently have $50,000 in that number. We had a meeting yesterday with the Board of Estimates and Apportionment, and there was some feedback from that meeting, and as of this morning, the seller has agreed to contribute additional money to that rent lag reserve, so that they're gonna put $100,000 into that to help the residents, and we're gonna move our $50,000 over to do additional repairs. So everyone's focused on making sure that we can do everything we can for the residents, but again, I don't wanna, be not upfront about the importance of making sure that there's enough rent to pay for all the expenses.
Okay, you say the seller would invest more into that fund? Who's
Yeah,
the seller?
well, the seller of the leasehold interest,
Okay.
Dominion, they are willing to cut their price by $100,000 as of this morning, to make sure that there's enough for the residents to be assisted. The other thing that is happening as part of this payment of this transfer is the current owner of the lease, Dominion, will pay off their loan, and they will also pay off a loan to the city of $658,000, which we just became aware of last evening. Apparently, the city provided some funds in order to address some environmental issues, and that loan will be repaid to the city. And the city will also start collecting their lease payment of $50,000 per year, as well as the taxes.
Right, so back to the rental increase. So what is the average cost of rent in this particular senior living environment now? What's the average cost now?
Look that up if you give me just a minute.
Sure.
There's kind of rents all over. They range from around 500 to 8. Current rents, the lowest is about 500 and the highest is about 760.
Okay.
And the market, the tax credit limits for a one-bedroom are $881. For a two-bedroom, it's $1,000. I'm sorry, the numbers I gave you were for one-bedrooms. The two-bedroom current rents are approximately $840 to $906. So we would be looking to increase rents, somewhere in between there,
So,
Go ahead.
so it's a 7% increase, potentially it could be less than 7%. How many people stay in this building currently?
220.
Okay. So is the plan to retain this 220, or is it to attract new?
Oh, no, we hope that everyone will stay with us, and that's one of the reasons we wanted to create a rent lag reserve. Some folks perhaps can afford it and some folks can't, and we want to work with our residents to make sure that we can do everything we can to keep them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so who controls this special fund?
We would make sure everyone is treated the same, so we'd set out a schedule of how to make sure that it is adjusted.
Mhm.
We haven't worked those details out yet. As of this morning, we were able to increase it, so I think that's great. But I think we'd want it to last a couple of years,
Mhm.
to make sure that we have to spread it wisely so that it will last a few years. That would be our goal.
And what would you use to determine the need to use this fund for a particular resident?
Well,
What criteria?
Yeah, I think we have to, I wouldn't want to, want to be careful about making sure we're following fair housing correctly, because we have to treat everyone the same. So I'd have to consult with our fair housing experts on how to make sure we do that.
Okay. And with the, because these are still the alderman's constituents, and he's still gonna receive a ton of phone calls, especially if rent increases. Will he be involved in this process?
Yeah, we talked about that in our meeting, and the importance of communicating with the residents in a community meeting, immediately as soon as we receive your approval, so everyone knows what's happening, and work out all those details and present them to, we'll have multiple community meetings to make sure that it works at a time people can attend. And then one-on-one, we'll work with residents to do everything we can to assist them, or to assist them with accessing other support. 50 of the units have support from the St. Louis Housing Authority, so those residents won't be affected unless their income changes. The other 170 residents pay the rent on their own, so again, now that we know we have $100,000, I think we would spread it out probably over 3 years and mathematically back into what that would mean for each resident to assist them.
Now, is this special fund, will this be something that's contributed to every year, or is it just for this initial term?
It would just
As
be.
you're taking over the
Yeah,
acquisition?
it would just be upfront. It would be a one-time deposit, and then as it runs out, we hope that residents will be able to access other support. And obviously, new residents that move in will pay the higher rent.
Okay, now, one final question, Mr. Chairman. How soon are you looking to impose this increase? Is this immediately when you take ownership, or take the lease agreement, or is it staggered?
We would increase the rents probably effective January 1st, but no one will have a rent increase until their lease renews. So, if there are 170 residents without vouchers, if your lease renewed in March, you wouldn't be impacted until March. So it gives people plenty of time.
Okay. No further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Howard, you had a question?
How many, is the project income qualified?
Yes,
So all residents there,
yes.
can you explain that a little more?
Sure, this received low-income housing tax credits in the original development when Alderman Moore refers to the $56 million that was spent. So all the residents earn less than 60% of the area median income. And when they move in, we go through a certification process to check whatever their income source is and to confirm all that. And then each year they go through a similar process to make sure they're income eligible. Now, I think it's less frequent in an elderly property. In a property where there are younger folks, sometimes income changes and goes up. And the tax credit program protects those residents, so if your income does go up over the limit, you're not forced out, you stay there. And so if that happened here, an elderly resident would be protected
As seniors?
as seniors. you would-
Okay, now the only people that will be allowed in this are seniors.
The HUD program also requires that you allow handicap residents, and so we do have some handicap residents.
So what is the age qualification for this project?
62 or 65, I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's 62, sorry. It's either 55 or 62, and I believe this one's 62.
But if you have a bona fide handicap,
Yeah, if you have a handicap and you're 25, by rule, we're required to accept that resident.
what is the occupancy rate?
It probably changes a little bit, but when we've looked at the numbers, it's usually been around 97%. It's usually pretty full.
Even with all the
Yes.
issues?
Yep.
Okay.
Folks
How do
need a place to live.
Yeah, how do you expect to address the vermin issues that the alderman?
Right, so we've spoken with the current provider that does the infestation work, and we've talked with them about different ways to be more proactive. I think the other thing that we feel is really important with bed bugs are a terrible problem in lots of communities. And, one of the really important components is education, because and particularly with seniors, I think it's really important for our residents to understand that, taking a chair out of the dumpster because it might look nice in their apartment is part of the problem. And once bed bugs are located and they're treated, it's really important that the resident follows through with their clothes and doing some of the other things that need to happen. And so we've been successful in other places where we took over and there was a big problem. And it doesn't happen overnight, but through regular communication and education, we've been able to turn these properties around. It doesn't mean you won't ever have it, because it happens. It happens for somebody taking their bag through the airport. You know, it's not targeted to an income group or any
Right.
type of
Right.
population.
Just hits anybody.
But once it hits, it's important to be proactive.
Right.
And so we would be more proactive with the treatments and the inspections. You know, I think it's really important. We believe it's important for management to be frequently in people's homes, not to invade their privacy, but to check on things and make sure the maintenance folks know how to look for this type of problem and that we address it quickly.
Okay. Thank you, that's all.
Alderman Boyd, any questions?
Yes, I hear you about the infestation, and I guess, and I heard Alderman Moore when he was talking about the traffic, different people coming in, and I think that plays a role.
Agree.
Because the grandkids, all these people coming in and out, and as she said, they bring that in with them. One little roach or one little bed bug will cover a whole building, and so I'm glad you all are gonna address that, and Alderman Moore brought it up, because, and my heart's with seniors, so we just have to take care of them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to make things not happen for their protection, because they don't understand it. So I'm glad that you all gonna look at that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I also agree with Alderman Moore's comment about the security guard sitting in the back.
Yeah.
When I first went to the property,
Right.
it took me a while to figure out where the person was and what they were supposed to be doing
Yeah,
there.
see,
So
that's not,
I think
yeah.
whoever it is, if it's a management staff, it could be a management staff during the day. I think that when people come into the building, they should be greeted by somebody that knows who people are.
Yeah,
And so that's some of the things we're gonna work on as well.
okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Alderman Hubbard, any further questions? No?
Yes, I just had I didn't have a question, but I have one question. I want to know if the comptroller's office was in support.
Yes, we are.
And then also I did want to speak to that. When I met with your team a couple of months ago, it was the day before they were gonna meet with Sam, and we talked about how the community really holds Homer G in their hearts and how important it is, how beloved it is, and they listen to the history of it, and I'm sure they went and met with Alderman Moore and heard even more about it. So thank you all for paying attention to not only those concerns, but some additional concerns. I did receive calls about this, and now I have some information that I'll be able to take back. And I want Alderman Moore to know, I'm sure along with my colleagues, that we are gonna support him on watching this to make sure that this project, that you all take it over as easily, correctly, and, you know, for the community, that the community is happy. So, thank you again, and thank you, Alderman Moore, for all your work you put in.
Will the late Alderman Vaccaro have any questions?
Yeah, I was just so you know, I was getting credit, and that's why I brought my friends. No, I really don't. Sam, you're good with this. I kind of read it over. It looks like you're gonna do a lot of work, and you're good with this.
Yeah, I'm good with it, but there are a few issues that I have. And one is I don't want the building to be recognized as a poor folks unit. And the vouchers they talk about are Section 8, and we allow so many Section 8 certificates, 50 of them in that building. But I want that building taken care of. And another thing, we'll be coming back to Ways and Means about a generator. In the spring of the year when the storms hit, shuts down all the power. Elevators are not working, and we don't have a backup generator in that building. And I think we should create an ordinance whereby the city should purchase it. We own the building. Over 150 people, we need to have a generator in there to back up the electricity, because they had the firemen that, it's good that the fire department is right on the corner from the building, and they come in and bring those people down on gurneys from the 6th floor. And most of our people that are real sick are up high for some reason. They need to be on the lower floors, but they're up high, and we need a backup generator.
Okay, well, we'll jump off that bridge when we get to it, but if there are no further questions, we'll entertain you to close on your Board Bill 151 committee substitute. Would you like to close on?
Well, I'd like to hear from the controller's office, Mr. Chairman, before you.
Okay, but if they have anything to say, the controller's office is in support of this, as I understand it.
Yes, we are in support of it.
Okay, you need something further than their support? Would you like them to speak?
Well, I want to make sure that they were collaborating together between Eagle Point and the control
I
office.
believe
Everybody
that is the case.
It's in the building.
Yeah, that's, I've
Everybody
read through it,
understand
yes.
what's going on. And I have my master developer here, Laura Hughes Moore. She's been in there. Laura, would you stand up, please, and show them who you are? She's not as young as she looks. She's only 14.
That's a compliment.
She said,
All right.
okay.
Anything further, Alderman? If not, we'll entertain a motion to pass out 151 committee substitute with a do pass recommendation.
Content.
Make a motion to pass out,
Oh, okay, I mean, need a motion to put the committee sub before.
make a motion to put committee sub before the committee,
Okay, entertain a second, okay.
previous role.
Previous role?
You
Oh,
can't.
can't.
No, we can't.
They
Because
can't.
he was late.
Well, I know, they were trying to arrest me.
Snapcrackers and pop it there.
Alderwoman Davis,
I'm in trouble.
Alderman Vaccaro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Howard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Hubbard,
Aye.
Alderwoman Murphy,
Aye.
Alderwoman Spencer, Alderman Muhammad,
Aye.
Alderman Oldenburg, Alderwoman Boyd,
Aye.
Alderwoman Clark Hubbard,
Aye.
Chairman Varner.
Aye.
8 aye votes.
Okay, now we have committee substitute 151 before us. We'll entertain a motion to pass committee substitute out with a do pass recommendation.
I'll actually make that motion.
Thank you, sir. Entertain a second.
Second.
We have a
Previous
second.
role.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, 151 committee substitute is passed out with a do pass. Thank you very much.